We allow it. It can be a burden if we choose, but blessing is a burden. We can still give you the glory by accepting that you have called us into this life, whatever it has brought our way today and whatever is left for us this evening. We have the chance to be blessed and be a blessing. We have the opportunity to let go of some of the big stuff that bothers us, that we're anxious about, and simply trust in your love. I ask that you would lay that spirit on our hearts. Amen. Well, some of you, I think, noticed that I didn't broadcast yesterday at 5. So no, I was still alive yesterday at 5. So this isn't like me coming from the second coming. I just forgot, and that happens every once in a while, doesn't it? So I'm sitting in my office, and it's funny because Lynn texted me and said, or called and said, just want to make sure you had thought about live at 5, which obviously she knew I needed to. And then she said, "No, I figured figured you'd think about it because you were in your office today." And the thing I've been thinking about most of the day, having been, down to Florida for a funeral and back up, and kind of a whirlwind couple of days, is I know when I get busy, I start focusing on what's. And it's not just when I'm busy, it's also when times are challenging, during times of crisis like we're in, right? So many people are in crisis. When I drive around, I see, empty parking lots, and I think, gosh, those, some businesses and organizations may never have the privilege to return to a normal pace of operation. And at first I think, what are they going to do about that? But my heart consistently, and I thank God for guiding me in this, my heart is consistently brought beyond the what, and on my best days, back to the who. What we do is far less important than who we do it for, or if it's a problem, who we do it to. If we look at our actions, bad ideas create mistakes. Mistakes are okay. Bad intent creates victims, and victims are not okay. When we don't pay attention to the who, we allow our intentions, our drive, our motives to become immersed in the what. And when we pay attention to the what, we run the risk of making mistakes that create victims. Case in point, I don't think very many people who initially got this COVID virus had any idea that they had it, or that they could be transmitting it, or that there would be several million people that would die from it. That's an accident. That's they maybe were told to take certain hygiene precautions, and they didn't intend to do it. But once we know that something is dangerous, and there were many people who knew that there was a danger and knew that there were protocols that they should have followed, and ignored those, got focused on the what they do, how they make a living, and those kinds of things. And whether it's intentional or not, victims are created. When we forget the who and pay attention to the what, our mistakes are no longer mistakes. The bad ideas that would result in a mistake, a bad idea, I'm going to skip washing my hands, or I'll be okay going here, or it shouldn't be a big deal. Those bad ideas are mistakes when our intent is good. They create victims when our intent is not. The who is what matters the most, if we think about the who. And what brought me to that is in John's Gospel, at the end of Christ's life, he has a long conversation with the disciples. They have several chapters are taken up with the time in the upper room, the foot washing, and Jesus' long prayers on behalf of the disciples. So by the time he gets to the cross, the disciples, the 12 who have been with him, have heard so much in these last few days. He has just really poured his heart out, paid attention to them. Here he is, aware that he's going to be crucified. He's aware that there's an uprising and that people are confused. He's aware that people he cares about are making poor decisions. And how does he stay focused on the little things, on the people around him? When they come to arrest him in the garden, one of his disciples takes a sword and cuts off a servant's ear. And Jesus says, no, don't do that. Those who live by the sword die by the sword. And he restores the ear to the servant, a no-name servant. He didn't need to take that time. But then even more poignantly for me, as he is on the cross, as he's hanging on the cross, he takes a moment and he looks at his mother. And his mother, by the way he refers to her,